Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast, the Pure Joy podcast. And welcome if you're watching us on YouTube. I'm here today with Caitlin Louise of Tucson, Arizona. Hi, Caitlin.
Hi, it's been so long since we've done this together. I'm so excited.
Yeah, you're actually one of my favorite people to podcast with because we're so on the same page with pretty much everything we're doing in life. And if you're new to the channel and you don't know, Caitlin and I are business partners. We've been in business together for probably like 6 years now.
Mhm.
And we have definitely iterated and expanded over the years from being a raw food company to now more of a strong, plant based, overall health, spirituality, and mental well being as well. So, mind, body, spirit. And we really feel that's super important. We actually have recorded some podcasts on all of that. So, if you look back on some of the podcasts, you'll see that we've talked about the pillars of health, one of them being your mindset and well being. And today is no different. We're going to talk a little bit about detoxification, what happens when winter is upon us or fall is upon us, and how to keep your immune system strong. We're going to talk a little bit about gut health and also our upcoming detox that's happening in January. But we'll talk a little bit about what you can do on your own to start detoxifying your body and what happens when you fall off the healthy train. Like what happens when you indulge. Nothing wrong with that at all. And we really want to address the fact that neither of us are perfect and we don't ever expect you to be perfect. We're all about flexibility, satisfaction, and sometimes having a splurge. So, and I
Yeah.
wanted to start today's podcast. And if you're listening and not watching, it's a new deck I got. And for those watching on YouTube, I'm holding it up. It's called Beyond Lemuria. And it's Izzy Ivy, and I met her at a Beloved festival in Oregon, and I bought one of her live paintings that she did on stage, and I fell in love with her work, so I ordered her card set, which is new. So I thought just for the collective, let's see, it's like October, it's almost mid-October by the time you guys are listening to this. So I'm just kind of pulling a card for all of you, everybody that I know will be listening, and for Caitlin and I as well, just like the collective what is it that we need to know right now? So I'm asking my higher self, my angels and guides, calling in Caitlin's higher self, and all of your guidance. Like, what card do we collectively need to know just to kind of get through the rest of October in a really graceful and easy way? So this is the card that wants to come out. I haven't even looked yet. It's upside down. Communication co-creation. Wow, and that's perfect because look, it's got like all of us. It's got the community. And aren't her cards cool? They're kind of look like aliens. Just like so
Yeah.
it is like our future selves or our selves that don't have to worry so much about the physical. Because I feel like in this place we're at right now on the planet and just living this life on Earth, it is very physically based. Nothing wrong with that, but there's more to life. There's more to expansion than that, and we really want to like kind of tap more into basically beyond the realm. So here's the book. It's kind of got quite a bit of information in it. I'll just kind of read the first little paragraph. It says nonverbal communication, love language, telepathy, unique ways of communication, light language, multi-dimensional information, community coexistence, relationships, meeting our higher selves, really seeing someone, deeper listening. I'll just read the first paragraph under it. We normally think of information as something that can be written or spoken, but if something is multidimensional, it is almost impossible to share it with words. I feel I have quite a lot of this information in my field now, and yet my intelligence cannot fathom it. Metaphor or song may hint at vastness, but it is more like a reminder or catalyst that encourages something to stir inside the listener. Wow. So that actually it feels like that's a good place to start with this, Caitlin. Like those things that we have a knowing about, like there's so many clairs, like clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, like seeing something with our mind's eye or hearing like what we feel like is a voice, or just an internal knowing, can really guide and direct our entire lives.
Mhm.
And I feel like that has a lot to do with our health and how we live on this planet. Because I do meet people that just feel like down in the dumps, like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And I do feel like the guidance, if we take the time to stop and listen, is always there. And that's kind of like how you and I got together as business partners. Like we were both guided to each other and we listened. And we're listening continuously. Now we're being called to start a product line and we're listening to that. So, what do you think, Caitlin, about all of the Claires?
Yeah, well, I definitely think that using our intuition and using those other higher voices are really what get us our health to the next level. And I know for so many of us, we grew up like learning not to listen to that voice and learning not to know what our intuition is. And I feel like, it is a practice of coming back online and really trusting yourself. And I know so many of our clients have complete distrust in their bodies. So, what are we supposed to eat? We're being fed one thing, we're being fed this diet, we're being fed this way. Nobody really knows what's going on. And it's like the coming back to ourselves. And that's why we practice mindfulness so much, because our bodies really do have the answers if we can just, sort of step out of the way and really remember and trust to listen to that inner guidance.
Exactly. I love this. And what's coming to me is fasting, meditation, and prayer. And not that you need to fast all the time or even fast for very long, but if you wake up in the morning and you haven't eaten since, 7 o'clock the night before, and instead of going for the food, drink some water and just get into a quiet space. And that's where guidance is all the time. Like it's in the silence. It's not in the doing and the talking. And the doing is so interesting to me because, here I am right now in Montana and I've been here for 6 weeks. And just this past week, today is Wednesday, and this past, like from Saturday, even Friday, last Friday, all the way through now, like I've been spending a ton of time alone, more than I would in a town like in Bend where I know a lot of people. And it suddenly, like, it came upon me as a gift versus a burden. Like sometimes it's like, oh, there's no one to talk to or do anything with, and I'm so bored or I'm lonely. And I just got this, because I spent so much time with the silence, like this gift came in of like, wow, you get to spend time contemplating. Like contemplation is underrated. Like we think, oh, what are you going to contemplate your navel? Like it's kind of a joke. But when you can just have the space and time, and I'm not saying all of us have this, like if you have kids or you're running around or you have a full time job, but if you even do get those little bits of time, and that's when the ahas come in, like you're saying, Caitlin, like, wow, maybe that granola I just had isn't serving me. And sometimes we don't know until we stop. We're just like the world, like America, especially, just push, 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 go, go, go. Don't take any time for yourself. Like that's almost like how do I want to say this? Like it's like we get rewarded like by, oh, you're so busy. You're such a doer. Oh, good for you. And it's like maybe not. Maybe that's not our highest for our highest good to be so busy.
Mhm. Yeah, especially for women, we just cycle on completely different clocks than this masculine 9 to 5 world. And I think this podcast coming out in October, like the change of season, is also, a really important time because we are going into darker months. And for some people, it's like the most depressing time. But really, if we're looking at it like you were saying, of like, going inside, introspective, spending more time alone, it's getting colder, being able to cozy up, like using this cocoon time as you're expansive, getting back to your intuition, taking care of your body. Maybe you are meditating a little bit longer, or you're fasting a little bit longer, just simplifying things.
Yeah, and I'm even thinking like so where it is here in Montana, like it's dark earlier because I'm in the north. So it's darker earlier and at night and it stays dark later in the morning. And so like even like if you think of meditation, you're like, "Oh, that's just not for me." What about just waking up in the morning and instead of reaching for your phone, just contemplate your dreams. Like again, maybe having a journal next to your bed and you're just it doesn't have to be any one way. And that's what I think stops people. Like I can't sit cross-legged, like I have a bad knee. I can't sit and meditate or my mind's all over the place. Well, then maybe writing is for you and that's the way that you hear your own guidance. And and like you said, the fasting can come in just even like, hey, I'm up at 7 a.m. and I haven't eaten since 7 p.m. It's 12 hours and I just feel more clarity in my body. Like I'm not bogged down by carbohydrates or by something that makes me like groggy.
Hmm. And yeah, I think too, just bringing it back to the change of season, like our bodies are changing, our digestive system is changing during this time and really honoring the change. Like, hey, I was eating, this for summer and, late fall, but now my body's changing. And oh, it wants warmer stuff. Like I woke up this morning thinking I was going to make celery juice and it was 40 degrees outside. And I was like, actually, no, I don't really want that anymore. Where it's like, I've been wanting that, for months and months and months. So also just being adaptable to that change. And for Elaine and I both, like when we do a 24-hour fast or something, it does allow us to listen more clearly to what our body wants. So maybe you start this change of season, with a 24 to 36-hour fast, or maybe you do a little mini cleanse. We have a cleanse course on the website if you're new to that at all. It can be really simplified and easy, but we always like to do these little resets when we're going into a new season, just to honor our bodies and the changes that it's going through too. Like my skin's already changing. It's getting a lot drier outside, that your hair changes, your gut microbiome changes, all of that because you're eating different foods. So
I want to speak to that as well because sometimes you can, like, for me personally, I can look in the mirror and go, what the heck just happened to my skin? Like, I look older. Like, and it's not even just like that I've aged, it's just the time of year, like you said. And, the cold food in the morning, maybe like the coconut yogurt with berries, is like, I don't want that. So this whole change of season is super important. And I think we forget, a lot of us do, because we're living in a land of abundance, and I can just go to the store and buy strawberries out of season, and I can get that coconut yogurt anytime and keep it in my fridge. But like what's coming into season right now is the more of the squashes and the winter greens. And even if you are juicing, maybe even changing up what you're putting in your juices. What's gonna, like ginger, like what, garlic, onion, what are the things that are gonna warm my body, even if it's not warm to the taste. And it's so important just to consider the seasons of, I mean, how ridiculous is it that we just try, like with our food, a lot of times try and ignore what's going on right outside our door because we have the heat on inside.
mhm.
And like I made a pumpkin soup, and I'm not a big carb eater. Like Caitlin, you know this. I, usually get very sleepy if I eat too many carbohydrates. But this pumpkin soup, I've been having it like, because I made a big batch at about like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'll toast up like an almond, the Siete almond tortillas. I'll just throw it on the burner and kind of puff it up with the flame, and like have this almond tortilla with hot pumpkin soup. And oh God, it's just such a joy. I just so look forward to it. And if I was like forcing myself, no, you got to do a juice cleanse right now, I would be freezing. I'll tell you this much because it's below freezing outside. I would be freezing, and I would be probably unhappy, and I wouldn't be having this podcast with you because I'd be like, oh, Caitlin, I don't feel good. I need to go get in bed. So we have to think about when it comes to detox, which I feel is really important. And when I've done detoxes with you, Caitlin, I'll come to you in Arizona in the winter because even if it's 40 degrees, it's way warmer than anywhere that has snow. So
Mhm.
picking your location if you're going to do a detox, but also what does detox look like? For some people, it's just stop eating meat and stop eating carbs, or I don't even want to say carbs, maybe just stop eating gluten and dairy, like those three things. Like, I'm just going to eliminate those things, and that's a detox. And we don't need to rush into like fasting in the winter, like, because I think that can be detrimental to some people depending on the climate that you're in. So, like, figuring out what detox means to you, and it might just be eliminating one thing.
Mhm. Yeah, the elimination diet approach. I mean, that's really what our 30-day detox is all about. It's eliminating the trigger foods that could be causing the inflammation or causing the gut imbalances. I mean, the gut is the center of our health, and so many of us are suffering from gut issues. And if we can just focus right just on that simple thing, like, yeah, my hormones are doing this. Yeah, this is happening also. But the root is usually in the gut. And if we can get the gut back online, so many of these other things follow suit. So that's why we're saying like eliminating maybe the gluten and the dairy that are mostly people have triggers with those kind of foods. So, learning those steps and listening to your body in those and eliminating those for a period of time, I think can be really helpful.
Yeah, and we hear all the time people that just gave up. They didn't think that, like, I hear this, oh, I don't need to give up gluten, I'm fine. But then they decide to give it up anyway, like when they're doing one of our keto gone green programs or our 30-day detox. And they're like, wow, I had no idea. Like, my thinking is so much clearer, or I wake up with energy. And just for people that are new, gluten has opiates, so it is very addictive. That's why you think about walking into a bakery and the smells are just wafting. Those are the opiates going straight to your brain, like must have, must have. And then the casein that's in cheese is also super addictive. There's an addictive quality to it, and that's why we hear, I could never give up my cheese. Substitution is one of our pillars of health, and that is, don't give up your cheese. Just switch over, like take our online vegan cheese making course, or buy some at the Miyokos at the store. You don't have to give anything up. Make our almond bread, like it's not really about eliminating as much as switching up. And that can make a huge difference, because once you feel deprived, and this is me, like I will tell you guys, if I go on a long fast or I just start really what I consider to be depriving myself, there will be a backlash. Like, I can only go for so long, and then I'm like, well, I deserve this. And then you go into another whole category. And that's not something that you can fix per se. It's something that you just have to keep an eye on. For me anyway, like I can be super like eating really great keto and feeling really good in my body and my health is just soaring, and then I'll have something and it's not even gluten because I can't ever have gluten, but maybe just some corn chips or something that is carbs, and I feel that thing switch on in me that's like, I want more, I want more, I want more. So it's like being mindful with yourself of like, okay, you had that one treat, now let's substitute and go back to your almond tortillas or your things, that so you don't feel like you're starving yourself or you're really deprived. It's more just like, I can still have enjoyment. Like, I'm going to mention our pumpkin and chocolate class coming up. We're going to make pumpkin pie. I mean, it's like a pumpkin pie cheesecake. You're going to make a pumpkin cake, Caitlin. We're going to make all kinds of yummy, delicious, like a chocolate mousse, but it's with all the good ingredients. So that'll be in my freezer for when I want it. And that's what will be my go-tos this fall and winter, versus feeling like I have to go out and like hunt down a treat because I feel deprived.
Yeah, and that's why we wanted to talk about, how to stay healthy this winter, because it can be the hardest season of all for most people. The holidays are so surrounded by tons of sugar and gluten and heavy, heavy foods that just bog us down. And that's why we love teaching so much during this time, because we know all the alternatives. You don't have to deprive. The pumpkin and chocolate class is just one. We have like a full Thanksgiving class already on the website and some gluten-free desserts for the holiday classes. Like, there are just so many options, and they're so kid friendly and husband friendly and all of the things. Like, really, if I could just ingrain that into people's heads that are curious or maybe wondering about this lifestyle, is you don't have to deprive. I just had a session with a woman who's dealing with a lot of gut issues, and her biggest thing was, well, I'm going to have to make 2 meals because my husband. I'm like, well, can we just try? Is he open to just trying something new? Because I guarantee you most people wouldn't never know the difference.
And he's going to notice the benefits too. And like, a lot of times I know, I mean, I'm not saying this is all men, but a lot of men, like if their wife or their girlfriend starts making them food, like, oh great, someone's cooking for me, and then they're going to eat it, and then suddenly, like, I've heard this, oh yeah, my husband's now like hooked on my food and he keeps eating the healthy cookies that I made, or he's eating all the almond bread. Great, make more, or get him involved. So I totally agree with you, Caitlin. Like, you don't have to make two separate meals. People will figure it out. If they need their treat, maybe they can go out and get their treat. And
Yeah. And a reminder too that men's digestive systems are so different than women's. This is something that I had to really help her through, is like, well, why can my husband eat absolutely everything? And his digestion, like he goes to the bathroom 3 times a day and like everything works just fine. And it's like, women, we're so different. Our hormones are so different. We're exposed to different things. Our bodies handle things differently. We're more sensitive. And that's our gift. And so if we look at these things as a gift and as they're, steering us towards our highest possible selves, and that may mean eating less dense foods like the gluten and the dairy, and really, just not comparing yourself to your husband or your boyfriend or, any other men in your life, because you were given this body to do, the work that you needed to accomplish on this planet. And it's going to be totally different than his. And you just need to stop looking over there. Like, come back and pay attention here, because you'll never be the strong digestive system like he is. And, he has probably other issues that you'll never have. So I think that comparison trap can get difficult for women, especially when their husbands don't understand. They're like, I know my partner, he doesn't understand still. And we've been together for over 4 years, what I go through. And because he's never felt it before. So it can be hard for them to be empathetic in that as well.
Yeah, and then like yeah, just having a community of other women that do understand you is super important. And that's why we do our 30-day detox program, because it is mostly women. I mean, I think usually it's all women. Maybe we'll have one guy, which we always welcome, by the way, if you're a man listening or watching. It's just women tend to gravitate towards our courses. But yeah, just a support system of some kind, which makes me think of the microbiome is like a system of a bunch of, you know, bacteria talking to each other, right? Everything is a symbiotic relationship. Grain Brain, that book came to mind where, what we're putting in our gut affects our brain. And it's now that's kind of common knowledge, but maybe some people don't understand. I know, even people I've met here in Montana, like with anxiety or, that just nervous, like a nervous, restless leg or just nervous all the time. And believe it or not, the sugar that people consume, the bad kind of coffee. I'm not against coffee, but if you're just going to a coffee shop and getting any crappy kind of coffee, the additives that are in a lot of foods that you don't even realize, that's all going to mess with your whole nervous system, and the anxiety gets like, why are some people so anxious? And I know, Caitlin, we've seen this over and over again. Someone will come to a 3-day detox or a 3-day retreat with us, and by the third day they're like, their whole nervous system has calmed down. They don't feel like they need to over talk, or you know they're just not as energetically sensitive, is a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I feel like the anxiety and the depression um, are so it's the gut. It all starts in the gut, and if people knew what they're consuming really changed their mood, I think that's a really key piece to remember. And it's possible to move through these things. Our guts turn over. I don't know, like every few weeks. Our cells are constantly healing. Our skin microbiome changes every week. So it's really possible to get through these things. And once and then you can make changes. And like you said before, is we're not perfect, we'll slip up, but actually knowing what our triggers are and knowing how to get our health back on track, that's like freedom. We're not relying on anyone else to tell us what to do, or taking a pill, or taking any of these other things to get ourselves back on track.
Yeah, and with that said, so let's say you do have like a maybe every weekend you splurge, like, or maybe on Sundays or whatever. But just in your mind, like while you're having it, it's really important to enjoy it. Because if you're sitting there eating whatever it is you're eating with guilt, it's going to affect your body in a different way than if you eat it with joy and total, like, I'm just going to enjoy this and have this. And then just commit to yourself tomorrow morning, I'm going to go back to my healthy way of eating and maybe boost my immune system. So I'd love to talk a little bit about like what you do, Caitlin. Like, let's say you did have something and you accidentally got, like, I know for you, if you go to a restaurant, sometimes you can just get gluten contaminated without even knowing it. And so what would you do, like, if that happened on a Sunday and the next morning, what would you do to like make sure that you didn't feel bad?
Well, for me, fasting is just the easiest because you're not putting in any more information. For me, my gut gets really inflamed, and so do my intestines. And that kind of creates some joint pain and sometimes a headache. So, really, fasting for me, just water, maybe some sort of, warm ginger broth or something really soothing to just calm everything down. I'm not putting anything that my body has to work hard to digest. And then, you know, there's a lot of gut healing things like L-glutamine that I will usually take, or I always make sure I take my probiotic. I take a spore-based probiotic called Seed. That's one that I'm taking right now. And then, yeah, that's definitely where I start. And then always making sure that I have digestive enzymes, or we have another thing called reconstructive enzymes, and those are a metabolic enzyme. So they really go in there. It's away from food. So it really works well when you're doing a little fast, and they go in and start cleaning up old fibrin and undigested proteins, and really just combat that inflammation in the gut. So that's definitely, so the L-glutamine, reconstructive enzymes, seed, and fasting on water, or, you know, some broth or teas.
Yeah. I love that you went straight to the gut. Like, what does the gut want? Because it's been irritated. So, any just think of any wound. Like, you're not gonna keep rubbing lotion on a sore on your arm. You're gonna like protect it, and you're gonna put something soothing on it. You know, like aloe, which is also good for the gut. So
Mhm.
something that, and you're not, and you're gonna kind of maybe cover it and just like let it rest. Same with our digestive system. Like, and this is, I want to iterate over and over again, reiterate that it's not about, hey, you have to fast, like, because some people are probably going, oh well, just skip a couple hours, like don't eat till
Mhm.
10 a.m versus 7 a.m. Like, it doesn't have to be, if you don't think you can make it through a whole day yet, and this is something we teach in our detox program, we ramp you up. So, you know, maybe the first day that you try fasting, you make it 12 whole hours without any calories, nothing but water. And then the next time you try it, maybe if you're just trying it once a week, you go, okay, I made it 13 hours, and then 14, and maybe up to 18. And maybe 18 is your limit for you for a while. And that's, you start really going into detox at 18 hours and getting the shakes and you need to eat. Like, that's fine. You know, if you've still got kids and you got a life to live and you can't just go get in bed, and then before you know it, there'll be a day that comes that you're like, wow, I actually made it 24 whole hours and I didn't eat. And you're so proud of yourself. So just think of this as running a marathon or anything else you would train for. It's not like be like Caitlin and fast for 36 hours the first out of the gate. Like, just a little bit of extra time, just like thinking, okay, gut, I'm really going to let you have some time. Things I love to do on top of what you mentioned, Caitlin, is there's one more probiotic that I really love, which is called Ion Biome. And this is, what is his name? Oh,
I've
Zach
been
Bush.
meaning, yeah, I've been meaning
He's
to
been
try
talking
that
a
one.
lot about the gut biome, and this is all ancient. Like, it comes from the soil, the probiotic that he sells. And there's one for the nose as well. So I'll do a couple squirts up the nose and then take that Ion Biome every morning as well. And so there's so many probiotics, and we're not here to tell you which one to take. I still have yet to try the seed one, which reminds me I do want to order that. But just try different ones and see what works for your body. How I know a probiotic is working is, one, it helps like get my gut a little flatter, and two, like if you're using the toilet, within a couple hours of taking it, it's showing you that it's, or if you take it at night and then in the morning, like it's showing you that it's working. It's getting your system moving. And it's all about the health of your stools as well. Like, if they're greasy and floating on the surface, maybe you're not digesting your fat. And there's like, we're not going to go into that today, but there's whole things you can look up, probably on Pinterest, about like what kind of stools you're supposed to have for health. Um, but yeah, so that's a big part of it. So going back to like, the gut is tied to the brain, is tied to the mood, is tied to the joy, is tied to the happiness. So the reason that I do what I do, and I'm realizing this more and more, because we do teach like that, hey, if you go on this program, you will lose weight. But I'm just so getting this download over and over and over again. It's not about your weight. It's never been about your weight. Love yourself exactly as you are. You might be a kapha in Ayurveda, and you're never going to be a skinny mini like your neighbor. Like, who cares? Are you healthy? Do you feel good? Are you happy? Are you joyful? Do you get up wanting to move and exercise? Do you have great conversations with people? Do you keep your train of thought? Do you like stay on track with what you're saying, and you feel like you've got really good information coming through your, what we call like your, you know, your higher self or your consciousness telling, giving you messages? Are you able to clearly hear them? Or are you just in a fog of like, oh, I gotta go to work, oh, I woke up late again, oh, like complain, 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 bitch, bitch, bitch? If that's you, it probably has more to do with what your gut health is doing versus your personality. Because I've seen, Caitlin, you and I have seen people switch from the beginning of a retreat to the end, like, or when, especially when they would come and do our 4-week program in Bali. like they come in and you're just like kind of afraid of them. They're just not happy people and they complain about everything. By the end, they write you a 5-star review and you're like, wait, this is the same person? And we always laugh because I know I get stressed out. Like, I'm like, oh my God, they hate me. And then by the end, everybody loves you because their gut has already started to heal within just those few weeks that they're with you, those 4 weeks.
I mean, I'm a completely different personality than when I was sick. And even on my healing journey, it can be hard. And this is why I empathize so much with people who, maybe are stuck in those negative mindset patterns, or they can't see the gratitude, or they can't experience gratitude in their life. Like that was definitely me. I felt so bogged down and in pain and sick and confused. So yeah, it's so possible to switch that up and really find that joy again. I mean, this is what we're all about, is helping people discover that joy. And I love what you said about the weight piece. And that's why I do love our 30-day detox. And because we aren't focusing so much on that, we're really focusing on our internal systems and how we can make them function better so that our whole life is better. And with the fasting too, I think we have to look at it different than a male's perspective. With women, we don't want to be forcing ourselves into it. And I think that's why some women can be afraid of it, because it feels very restrictive, and it feels more like a chore or something that we have to do, or else we're going to be bad. So that's why I love what you said about taking it slow. And yeah, taking our viewpoint off of the physical weight of the body, because that usually balances out exactly how it's supposed to. When your hormones are working and you're sleeping at night, and if you're menstruating, you're getting your menstrual cycle on time, like those are all signs of optimal health. And
Yeah.
it's not this skinny mini body like you said.
It's not. And I know you, Caitlin, you and I have had those talks over the years because I'm someone, my body type is not the type that's just naturally skinny. Like I always have focused on my weight. And now I'm at an age and I'm at a place in my life where I'm like, it's just not as important to me. Like I realize I'm just as loved with an extra few pounds on me than if I'm thin. In fact, sometimes I feel like I'm more like people kind of relate more when you're not on this fast track of like, I gotta fast now and I gotta do this. And you're just so self focused. It's like when you can just, and one of our pillars is nourish. And I've been focusing, like I said, with my pumpkin soup, and like I put spirulina this morning in my coconut yogurt, nourishing my body. And every time I think about fasting right now, I mean, I still do my, what we call intermittent fasting, or just shorter eating windows, which I'll usually push it to like 16 hours or even longer before I have any actual food. Um, but when I am eating and when I am deciding what to have for a meal, like what's going to feel nourishing to not just my gut, but to my mind, to my soul. Like, the whole reason we got into raw foods and we turned it into gourmet raw foods, like anybody can eat raw foods, like anybody can eat carrots and salad and make a smoothie, but we still do. We teach like a raw vegan lasagna or a baked vegan lasagna or like bread or these things that are gluten-free and grain-free because we want to nourish ourselves and feel that we're not just, again, in deprivation. So I think the reason that keeps coming back is because it's a pattern for a lot of us, especially women, like that punishment, like you said, if I'm not fasting or if I'm not skinny, then I'm not good. I'm not good enough. And why are we relating the size of our body and or what we chose to eat in that day, which could be completely different from what someone else, like maybe it's their fasting day, comparison, and also feeling like we have to somehow hurt ourselves through starving ourselves and or working out on the treadmill like a little hamster to be like good, like good enough to, oh, I'm okay now. Like I'm really seeing through that and I'm laughing. Like I'm laughing at the old me who used to think I was a better person and a little bit more superior because I was a raw foodist and I was a this and I didn't have that, and that person's blah blah blah, and it's just all like distraction. That's just a distraction. Why are we focusing on that? Just focusing on what makes us feel good, and not just an in the moment pizza or chocolate cake feel good, but what nourishes us on every level, including our higher consciousness, our well-being, our connection to the divine, and all of this. Like that's why we love the 30-day detox. That's why we love the foods that we teach, because all of it clears out our cells to have those better connections and better friendships and better relationships, less fighting in your relationship.
Hmm. Yeah, there's this, I'm in love with this poem right now. It's called A Letter to My Daughter. And he has the Sanskrit phrase in there, and it's Sarvam Anam. Everything is food. Absolutely everything. And it just gives me chills every time. Like we start focusing so heavily on these, maybe it's not food, but the one way of exercising and the one way of being and the one way of meditating. And it's like, no, everything is everything. Everything is food. Everything is consumable. It's just the value that we put on it. And I just absolutely love that, especially when someone's going through a big major, diet and lifestyle change, because they are wanting to fix some of these things or live a little bit longer. It's like, yeah, the celery is the food too. The celery, that the healthy thing is also food. Everything is food.
Yeah.
So it can be, dissected in so many ways, but it just resonates so much with me.
I love that. And when you said that, I think about the mountains that are around me right now. And every time I'm like driving or I'm looking even out the window and I see a snow-topped mountain, like it nourishes our soul. And so I guess that's also another thing to remember. If you are, like you said, Caitlin, like, hey, this eating this much isn't serving me. Like in yourself, like what goes beyond satisfaction, what's just an addiction, or you're trying to find love in your food. So, what other ways can we nourish ourselves? And we already mentioned like the meditation, the contemplation, great music. Like sometimes I'll just turn music on and I'll just like be in the kitchen making something and just dancing to it and moving to it. And I swear my appetite will go away. Like it's so amazing. Drink some water and dance a little bit, or just get on the yoga mat and do a few stretches. And that's nourishing me in a different way. Like movement is very nourishing. Talking to a friend, like sometimes you and I'll get on the phone, or I'll just talk to a friend for an hour, and I don't think about food. I don't care about anything else. That's nourishing me. That's food in that moment. And I think that the idea of community is one, and that was in the card that I pulled, communication, co-creation. Like we need to go back to, especially with everything everybody's been going through with the 6 feet distance and all of that, community is so important. And I cannot wait to put together our next retreat, Caitlin, because I feel like 2022 is time, like to get
Mhm.
back together as a community and start nourishing each other on that level. And
Yeah.
reaching out for a different kind of community. If you're someone that is alone, or you're just, you have your partner that you live with, like maybe reaching out in other ways, seeing what's out there that you can connect with. I went to a cacao ceremony here in Bozeman last night, and I don't know anybody. And I went and we all did like a sharing circle, and then we drank the cacao and we did a meditation and we listened to this guy play this song in Spanish. And I had this whole like transformative, like amazing experience. And then we all just chatted for a while afterwards. And that was so nourishing to me. That was like, I met a new community. So it's like just taking that little brave step to push yourself a little bit beyond your comfort zone, whether it's fasting or meeting new people or going to an event that you feel like resonates with you.
I would say community nourishes me more than anything. Talking to a good friend, going on a walk with, someone you love, like that is so nourishing. And that's why I really, truly do love our online community. When we do these 30-day detoxes, like our next one's in January, we love doing January ones because it's definitely another change of season or change of mindset in that time. And we get off one of our coaching calls, I'm filled up for the whole day, connecting with other women and really just like sharing our hearts and sharing our struggles and sharing what we can do to be our most optimal selves. Like that fills me up so much. And our in-person stuff, of course. So I can't wait for July 2022, probably. But
When we do our in person. And then the
yeah.
January one, I just want to mention, if you're listening to this and hearing the word detox, it's different than what you think. Like we give you tons of recipes and you get to eat food. We do encourage you to fast at least 1 day a week, and we'll ramp you up like I was talking about. But if you're curious about it, you should just check it out. Just I'll put all the links below, whether this is YouTube or on the podcast. Just check us out, see what we've got to offer. We've got a lot of free recipes on the website that you can start with, and I'll put a link to that as well. And also go back into these podcasts. If you're listening on YouTube, just go to the Pure Joy podcast, wherever you find your podcast, and listen back to Caitlin and I talking about the different pillars of health and about a lot of information that might like really enlighten you to what you may need to do for your next step. Like, what's your next step? And that's again contemplation as well and asking. So one thing I know, and I do talk to my guides and my angels every morning. I call them in. I give gratitude to the creator for this life and this amazingness that I'm living. And then I say, good morning, guides. Good morning, angels. Like, what have you got for me today? What do you need me to know? And they cannot, like, prime directive, like Star Trek, is they can't tell you stuff unless you're asking. And that's for our free will. So you need to ask. And if you don't believe in angels, like your guidance system or the higher, you know, the one creator, whatever you want to call it, whatever works for you, like just ask, like, tell me something I need to know today. Like, what's the first step I need to take towards my health? And writing for me helps, not typing, but writing, because it's a different part of your brain. And you're going to be amazed what starts to come out if you write for time, set a timer for 10 minutes, and you're like, wow, was that me that wrote that? And then you give yourself really good advice because you already know what you need. We all do. If you've gotten this far through listening to us today, you know there's something in this for you, and you know you're here for a reason. And we know we were called to talk about this topic for a reason. We're here for you guys, and I just want to say that over and over again. Caitlin is available on, email anytime. Caitlin at purejoyacademy.com, and that's spelled Katelyn. And I'm available. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube. You can find all our links. And we want to help you. So that's why we put so much stuff, free stuff on our website. Like, there's so much free content because our calling is to help the planet find their joy. Pure Joy Planet, like transform one person at a time. And if you can help yourself wake up and be a happier person, and like suddenly you start seeing like things you didn't see before, like, wait, they're telling me this on the news, but then they said something completely contradictory. Like, And so it's kind of like we are awakening as humanity. And the first place it starts usually is questioning, like, wait, I don't know if I'm believing everything that I'm hearing anymore. And I'm not telling you what to believe, but just start questioning, does this feel like truth to me? And it's always in the heart. It's always in the heart. It's not going to be in the mind. It's going to be in the heart. And you can just breathe into your heart and ask that question, like, what do I need to know today, like, to have the best life ever? Or it could be more subtle, like just to improve my relationship. What do I need to know today just to feel a little bit better in my body? Anything to add to that, Caitlin?
No, I love that. That was perfect. And just another, like, where you can start is subscribe to the mailing list. You'll get a free full recipe book with a bunch of healthy recipes in there. That's a really great place to start. And yeah, we have small little virtual cooking classes just to get you dialed into the community. They're so interactive. We're on there for a few hours in the afternoon. The next one's on the 28th. And that's the time to really get to know us and get to know the community. They're so supportive. We're really here to hold your hand. And if you've been feeling lost or haven't known where to turn to, or your doctor you're confused about, or whatever it is, like, just know you have a support system right here.
Yep. And so just to reiterate that, 28th on a Thursday afternoon, 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, pumpkin and chocolate. Me and Caitlin are both going to be teaching like 3 or 4 recipes. And like you said, it's an afternoon. This is going to set you up for the holidays. Like, if you know this stuff, you're going to be like, I'm good. I don't need that sugary laden stuff. And then January, what is it? 14th is our detox date.
January 14th for 30 days.
Yep. So put that on your calendar, but just go to purejoyplanet.com, get on our mailing list, get your free recipe book, and then you'll get all the information. Every time a new podcast comes out, you'll get a little link telling you that it's available.
Awesome.
All right. So don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever thing you're listening to this on. And we'll see you guys very soon.
Thanks for being here.